My name is Jason Vick. I live in St. Paul, Minnesota. I'm 44 years old. I'm a backpacker, outdoorsman. I love the outdoors. I have many hobbies that are connected to my careers. And my very first encounter was back when I was about 4 years old. I was living in a small apartment in the projects with my mother. I was a very little child, so I decided that night that I was nervous and I was going to spend the night in my mother's bed. But I was laying there, I had gone to sleep, and for me, I had felt that I had woken up in the morning. And I'm guessing it was morning because the sunlight was starting to come in. I could tell that it wasn't very cloudy. I mean, it was so surreal because the sun was coming in. It was like I could tell every detail in the room. And I was laying on the left side, and this is where it gets really strange. Laying there, knowing the sun was coming in, I remember every detail. Now that I'm 44, I remember every detail as if it was yesterday. And that's why it feels so very real for me. Laying there, I looked over my left arm and I saw this, what I could only imagine it to be was, and this is where it gets crazy, is like a, oh my gosh, it's so hard to say, like a demonic wolf. And it came out from underneath the bed. And I remember its face. It was brown. It was complete full of hair, as if you were looking at a dog, but with a very demonic demeanor. The eyes were yellow. The nose was black. And all it had was kind of a, what would you say? Kind of a snarl, very white, jagged teeth. And it was very brief. It reached over and it scraped my left arm. And that's where it gets really strange because I would say, oh gosh, a few weeks, I actually had a scratch on my left arm. And I remember every detail as if it was yesterday. This demonic dog-like creature is coming over the left side of the bed and it just wants to scratch my arm. And the sun's coming in, my mom is asleep, and that's where it ends. It disappears, it goes into just complete nothing, and I have no other memory of that morning besides that. But being 44 and looking back and seeing myself as a 4-year-old child, it's one of the very first memories I've ever had. I don't have a lot of memories as a child because I grew up in a very, very abusive and horrible childhood. But the crazy part is that I can remember that day, that morning, as if it was yesterday, now that I'm 44, remembering for a 4-year-old child. And that is what is absolutely astonishing for me. So that was my very first Dogman encounter. Was it flesh and blood? Was it completely spiritual? Well, just imagine. I mean, it comes over the bed, it disappears. So, you be the judge as far as to, was it paranormal? Was it supernatural? Was it preternatural? Was it demonic? I can tell you right now that I was absolutely afraid. I was terrified. Being a 4-year-old kid, seeing these type of things, it was absolutely a nightmare. It was my very first experience, but it was an absolute nightmare. And to this day, remembering all the details tells me that it was something that was completely substantial, something that was completely real, and I wouldn't know how to discredit it as far as my very first experience. Now, going into my second experience, now that I'm living in a certain apartment here that I've lived in for almost 10 years here in St. Paul, Minnesota, I had 2 dogs, Gabriel and Kaija. They have passed away as of about 2.5 years ago. This encounter happened, I would say it's 2023. So I'm guessing that this encounter happened back in, oh gosh, I think it was like 2019, something like that. I had 2 boys, 2 boy pit bulls. Like I said, Gabriel and Kaija, very big pit bulls. They were 110 pounds apiece, big boys. But they were also my medical service dogs. I had trained them and I made them my medical service dogs. And that's the reason why they could live with me in my apartment. Anyways, my boy Gabriel was the biggest of them. He was 110. Kaija was 98 pounds, but he was a big boy. but he was also a very sensitive boy. And I will get in later in our talk about paranormal experiences, but he could always tell when something almost paranormal was happening. He would react in a certain way that we'll get into later. But I was taking my boys to go potty. So basically I had to, go out my door, take the elevator down and go out the back of the building. So we took the elevator down. We're going out to the back of the building. Now, it was nighttime. It was very dark outside. I live right next to a major highway, which is literally a stone's throw away. I'm guessing about the entrance ramp for the highway is about, from where we were, I'd say about maybe 70, 80 feet away. And it goes right on down. It's a right-hand entrance, and then it goes on to Highway 94, which runs right through Minnesota. And it was dark out, but there were street lamps. There is a road. There's the on-ramp, but there's also a road that runs east and west. And we were facing south, looking into the road. We had come downstairs. We're outside. We're facing that direction. And my boy Gabriel turns to the right. And I'm like, let's go potty. Come on, hey, let's go to the bathroom. Like, come on, let's go, guys. But he wouldn't move. I was jerking the leash, and I noticed he's not moving. Now, my boy Kaiser is kind of just meandering about on the leash. I had extender leashes, which allowed the dog to go up to 13 feet. But Gabriel was locked looking to our right. So he's looking west. And basically, it's a large yard. No fences or anything like that, but it's just a large yard next to the building. And if you look about 80, 90 yards in that direction, you're just going to come into some houses and a fence. He's locked in that direction, and when you look down there, it looks dark. So it doesn't look like a yard that's completely lit up. Now, there are lights. Part of the yard is lit up, but that part of the yard is dark because there are no lights at the very end of that part of the yard, just a fence and some houses. I look over in that direction, and Gabe went into his pit bull stance, chest out, legs centered, just ready to take on whatever is going on in that direction. I look downward, and I see this black shape. Now, to kind of give you some kind of idea what this black shape looked like, this is where it gets difficult, because the second I saw it, it took off. It moved with preternatural speed. A speed that you can't attribute to anything that's natural or to anything that you could associate with as far as animals in our animal kingdom or a bird or anything. And to give you an idea of that shape, here on Vick's channel, the opening credits, there's that picture of that werewolf with the muscular body, the muscular legs. You got that long thigh leg going into the bottom part of the leg. And what I saw was whatever it was, what was a solid black shape, but the blackness literally looked like I was looking into a black void. I saw no details. I saw no fur. I didn't see any details whatsoever except for like a black void and then the overall shape. And what I would say, what we think about when we think about werewolves, like from the movie Underworld, just the long legs, the muscular body. But now seeing it as a black shape, I saw it go from left to right, and it took off with speed I can't even imagine. It was so quick, but it left an impression in my mind that I can't forget. I just saw the legs shoot out and the body move forward. The legs, I saw it for about, I'd say about 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. I would say about 3 or 4 seconds. And it just took off from left to right and then disappeared behind the building. Now, it didn't look like a physical flesh and blood body. It just looked like a black voided shape. But the shape was defined, but the details were not. And that was my second encounter. And like I said, my boy Gabriel, my big tan colored pit bull, he was always very sensitive to this stuff. And whenever we'd go outside, I would say about 70 to 85% of the time, he would look in that direction. Even before that encounter, he would look in that direction and he would wonder, like, what am I seeing over there? He just had his look on his face, like, what's going on over there? I need to protect my owner, Jason. I need to protect all of us. And he would just look in that direction and just want to completely protect us. He wanted to completely just just get in between whatever was in that direction and us. And most days, we'd go potty and we'd go about our business back there, but there would be times where he would just lock into position, eyes locked in that direction, and he just wouldn't move until after several minutes of just urging him to go. So that was my second encounter. My third encounter, leading up to 4 here, my third encounter, it was again at night. I was with my best friend. His name was Josh. He lives on the 4th floor of my building. I live on the 3rd floor. We're both outdoorsmen. We're backpackers. We're hikers. We're bushcrafters. And just to give you an idea, we live in the inner city. So we live in the ghettos of the inner city of St. Paul. So us being outdoorsmen, bushcrafters, backpackers, all that stuff, yada, yada, we are kind of a rare bunch. And when I get into more about me, you'll kind of see why it might be a little bit rare to be what we are, especially in this area. We're kind of the only ones. But we were going to go for a walk down by the Mississippi River where we go a lot. We have like a little campfire. We have a little metal stove that we can set up and you put wood inside of it and you can make yourself like a little fire because, of course, we don't want to have a big bonfire in the middle of the city, but we have like a little concentrated fire. Well, we drive over to Minneapolis, which is west of St. Paul. We live in the Twin Cities, so there's St. Paul and Minneapolis. That's why they call them Twin Cities. And Minneapolis is I'd say about 10, 15 minutes from where we live. And we would go through downtown and go to a certain area to go and walk down by the river. We park our car. I would guess I think it was about 9, 10 o'clock. We're kind of night owls, so we go out late. We park the car, we walk down a hill, and we get on this paved path that you can bicycle on, you can walk on, and it meanders through kind of like a city park. So we meander through this path, and we get to the river, and we decide to have a campfire in our little concentrated stove. And I would say it was about, I think it was about April or May. So we know that the snow was starting to melt. We have our campfire, it's facing the river, and we're just slightly off the pavement of the path, and we're sitting on a bench. There's like a little bench there, which makes it easy just to sit in front of a fire. Well, I guess it was about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and we decided to go home. So we shut everything down. We break camp, so to speak. We put our backpacks back on, and we decided to take the path back to the car. Well, this is going to lead up into our 2 experiences because we had them together. We were taking the path back to the car, and off to the right of the path, to the right of us, is kind of a woodsy area, and then off to the left of us is the Mississippi River. And there's really nowhere to go besides just going straight into the river. Well, off to the right is, like I said, the woods, but on the path, as we're walking, we walked about 5 or 6 minutes, and there was blotches of snow on the path. And, to be honest, that late at night, I don't know how we noticed it, but maybe that's the whole point, that we did notice it, like it was that substantial. We looked down on the ground. We had headlamps on, but there's still the light coming off the river. You got the moon. There's a police station where they train K-9 dogs right across the river, so they had huge standing lights and all that kind of jazz. So it is kind of lit up a little bit. It isn't pitch black. And we noticed in the snow, there was a blotch of snow, I would say about a couple feet wide, and then the rest was pavement. We noticed 2 tracks. This is key, 2 tracks. So we look down at the track, and what we see captivated us, I would say, for about 20 or 25 minutes. I mean, it really captivated us. We look down, and we see this dog print, if you want to call it that, but we see this dog print that was absolutely humongous. Like it was the biggest thing we've ever seen. We did not see 4. We saw 2 right next to each other. We see the general pad of the dog print, and we see you've got the toenails. Like I said, an average dog print, except this wasn't average in size. It was gigantic. We thought to ourselves, okay, what could this be? Because at this time, we're not thinking Dogman. That would have been the furthest thing from our mind at that point. We're looking down at this print, and through our minds, and we're talking to each other, through our minds, we're thinking, like, what can this be? Like, we had to get answers. Like, it was that big of a print that we had to get answers. We're thinking, okay, Great Dane, Irish Wolfhound, Mastiff, and we keep saying, no, it's still too big. It's still too big. Then we're thinking Bobcat, because Bobcat prints, their paws are kind of snowshoe paws so they can walk on top of the snow. And we're thinking, but it doesn't look like a cat print. A wolf print? No, too big. So anyways, we go through about 1,000 different animals in our brain, and we could not figure out at all what it was. It was just the largest dog print on the face of this planet. And like I said, we saw 2 next to each other. We did not see 4. And there was room to see 4 prints because there was that huge section of snow. If it would have been a dog, you would have seen 4 prints. No, we saw 2. And like I said, it captivated us for about 20 or 25 minutes. Finally, we're just like, we don't know. Let's just go home. But we talk about it every now and then. We talk about it. We reminisce about it. Like, now that we know about Dogman more, I've always been into all this kind of stuff. But now that we're really into this stuff, both me and Josh, we're really into this stuff. I'm more of a believer than he is. He's more of a skeptic. I'm not going to 100% believe until I see it myself. At least that's what he tells me. But he believes. And I know for me, I believe. Like I said, I've had my own encounters, and everybody else who's had encounters. I think you'd have to be a fool not to believe. Too much has happened. And you get to a point where so much has happened that you just, how do you keep denying it at that point? Like, how do you keep saying, no, it can't be? How do you get to that place? So we talk about those prints and all that kind of stuff still to these days. Well, that leads into the 4th encounter that we have, which it was in the same area. There were the prints. This was about a year later. We're walking on that path. Once again, it's about 1, 2, 3 in the morning. We're walking that path to go back home. Like I said, that was where we had the fire. We're next to the river. There's the police K-9 training area across the river. So we're taking that same path a year later back to the car. And this is where it gets strange. It's quick. It doesn't last long, but it happens. We're walking the path, and all of a sudden, we hear a rustling off to our right. And like I was mentioning before, if you go off right to the path, it's kind of like sections of woods. You got your trees, you got your bushes, you got your branches, you got your growing plants. But in that particular section of the trail, it's almost pitch black except for our headlamps. So we're walking down the path, and we hear something off to the right. We stop, we're thinking, okay, maybe it's a deer, maybe it's a raccoon, who knows, whatever. So we look off to the right, but here's where it gets crazy, is that closest to me, I look off to my right, and I would say about 5-6 feet off to my right, I'm looking at 2 sets of eye shine. And I would say the one set of eye shine was the tallest eye shine that I saw was taller than me. I'm guessing it was I'm 6 foot, just under 6'1". Josh is 6'2". We look over and it's taller than both of us, but not by much, just a little bit taller than us. And then the second set of eye shine was just a few inches below that. So I'm guessing the tallest one was probably about 6'5", 6'6", and the shortest one was I'd say about maybe 5'11", maybe 6 foot, but I'm guessing maybe more like 5'11". But we look off to the right, we see the 2 sets of eye shine, and Josh is like, "Oh, maybe it's deer," and I'm like, "Dude, are you serious?" And I'm looking at these things, and then in that instant, like if you just were to snap your fingers, in that instant, I felt this overwhelming sense of fear. I felt this overwhelming sense of just leave, get out of here, go, go, go. I started praying for strength. Like I said, this is happening all in the blink of an eye. I'm not saying anything out loud. Just internally, I'm like, whatever this is, whatever these feelings are, I'm praying them kind of away to just to be strong, because I don't know what I'm looking at, but it kind of crosses my mind like, this isn't normal, this isn't right, this isn't natural, and I'm feeling senses of fear, and like, I need to get out of here. Well, we're looking at this eye shine, and this eye shine didn't seem to react like deer. This eye shine was like penetrating, and it was staring right at us, and whatever was there, it was not moving. It was not moving at all. It was like it was just locked there. I mean, you think about deer, and we're 2 big guys. I'm muscular. about 6 foot, about 250 pounds. Josh is 6'2", and we both got our backpacks on, larger backpacks. We got gear with us. We got our headlamps, and we're talking out loud. We both have loud voices. And whatever this is, it's not going away. It's just staring at us with a penetrative stare. Like I said, it lasts just in that moment. And I'm like, Josh, let's just get out of here. Let's just go. Well, the eye shine stayed there, kept looking at us, and I kept looking over my shoulder, and it was just watching us, and we just continued on the trail. And to this day, me and Josh, we have our talks about that eye shine. And now that we know more about Dogman and I'm more into all this stuff at this point, it does raise the question, like, what were we staring at? What was that feeling of overwhelming fear? Thinking like, we need to get out of here. When we see deer, do we have those feelings? When we see deer, do we feel like absolutely terrified and afraid and like we need to get out of here? And I'll get into later about those feelings of fear that washes over us later in the show. But yeah, that was it. We walked home. To this day, we talk about it. My friend Josh thinks he wants to feel that it's deer because I just honestly, I think he just can't come to terms with maybe it being something else. But my experiences weren't like I'm seeing this big, crazy creature chasing us down the trail, attacking us, chomping its jaws. My experience goes a lot deeper than that. I would like to help people with these experiences because of what goes back, like when I mentioned that experience I had when I was 4 years old, when whatever that was, that demonic being or whatever you want to call it, came over the bed and scratched my arm. From that moment on, I was having spiritual experiences so severe that the older I got, the more severe they got. And I would like to help people with their trauma and their experiences because I feel that it changes people's lives when they have these experiences or when they have any kind of paranormal experience. And maybe it's not Dogman per se. Maybe it's a paranormal experience or supernatural experience that they suffer in their life where they might need support. They might need someone just to listen and to accept what they have to say. Something to be somebody who's just going to be on their side. Someone who's not going to laugh at them, judge them, condemn them, but someone to just be a peer support. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a social worker, but I'm a good listener. I like to believe that I'm intelligent, and I like to believe that, I've got some wisdom to offer. I just want to help people. After my car accident, where I broke my back, I got hooked on my pain pills, and I had to go into rehab to get off those pain pills. I wasn't scoring on the street, but my pain doctor was prescribing absolute crazy amounts and crazy dosages of pain pills. Long story short, I had to go into rehab to get off the pain pills correctly. I learned in rehab that my purpose in life was to serve people, was to be of service. And with all the experiences, because I talked about my Dogman experiences, but that's nothing compared to my paranormal and supernatural experiences, especially when it comes to the demonic, or what I would call the demonic. My experiences are absolutely intense, and many, many, many of them. And I would like to help people with any of that. I've done so much in that realm, in that particular area of focus, that I would like to be that person for somebody else that will listen, not judge, not condemn, but help just be a complete supporting factor. And not just support and listen, but give them the tools and to give them, let's just call them weapons and shields to defend themselves and to go on the attack against these things, whether it's Dogmen, paranormal, demonic, whatever. They're all kind of the same thing. At least that's what I believe. But for anybody who would like to reach me, Vick is going to leave a link to my Facebook account where you can contact me about anything Dogmen or paranormal, any type of experience you've had that may be troubling or something that's related to the show or any experience. He'll leave a link to my Facebook account and we'll go from there. So I appreciate everybody who's listened to me tonight. It's been an absolute honor, and I hope to be of service and to be of help. And just check out that link, and we'll talk hopefully sometime soon. I appreciate it. Thank you.